Welcome, everyone. I am here today with William and Bev, and this is going to be a short 10-minute or less video of some reminders going into the season. And this is the only one that the three of us are going to produce, although we will all be getting together for our caption meetings January 6th for downstairs and January 7th for upstairs. I want to tell you or remind you that Carl will be sending out short videos soon. They will be about 10 minutes in length, and they will be covering some of the topics that we sent questions to you about, such as derived achievement and craftsmanship and safety. So look for those in your inbox. My suggestion is when you get it, view it, try to digest it, write down questions if you have questions. Maybe view it a second time. They should be short, knock on wood. And then we can talk about whatever questions you have and clarifications when we have our caption time together. Just a few reminders about travel. Most of you have started to book your travel. Thanks. Please adhere to Lyra's timelines of booking travel. If you have travel issues during the season, contact Dale and myself first. We have the authority to allow you to rebook and problem solve on the fly. And then we usually always, include Lyra in the fold as well. Yeah, those are the basic reminders. I'm going to kick it down to Beverly. She's going to talk about a few things. And then it'll be William's turn. And I'll finish up with a few salient points and we'll call it good. Bev.
All right, thanks. Hey, everyone. It's great to be back together again soon. There are some issues or some topics that we will talk about in depth in our caption meeting, so I'm excited to see you there. One of the things that seems to be new is that the advisory board approved rifle alternatives as legal equipment. That doesn't change anything for us in either equipment or the movement caption. It does impact the timing and penalties, and we tend to have this conversation individually throughout the year as designers bring into their concepts different types of props. They spin, who knows what, they throw things, they're engaged with all kinds of different items, right? And on page 68 of our manual, it discusses that at length about the manipulation of these handheld items. So while these rifle alternatives are different for timing and penalty, it's not a change for us. So if you'll kind of refresh yourselves with that page 68 about it, and that we will observe the physical properties of what they're doing and the efforts that the skills that they're using to manipulate whatever it is. And we have to remember that it's not the prop itself that creates the range in vocabulary, that it's the expansion of the skills. It's the expansion of what the individuals are doing. There is another topic that we'll go into depth that Carl will talk with us about in the videos with the steering committee, and we will talk about on our caption meeting, and that deals with safety and compatibility. And those are things that we have always noticed, we have always talked about at the IA level because we see it close up. We are not the gatekeepers of that, right? That deals with the contest administrators and Dale. However, it's something that we're able to discuss in our commentary. However, it's not really our job to evaluate whether or not they should be doing it. We should mention it if we see it happening, if we see that there is a safety issue, talk about it, and then we have to move on and let the experts in that area deal with that. So I'm going to send it on to William. Excited to see you in our caption meetings where we can talk about some of these things in depth.
Thanks, Beverly, and hello to everyone. And as Beverly alluded to, we'll dig into some of those details in our caption meetings. I did want to ask folks ahead of those meetings, if you look in the rule book on page 28 for general effect, page 51 for design analysis, and page 75 for equipment and movement, there are some paragraphs explaining the new score sheets and philosophy emphasis points this year. Nothing's changed. It's just emphasized this year. And building on the safety item a little bit is just compatibility has always been on every score sheet. And we're just leaning into that. And we'll talk more about class standards when we get to the caption meetings also. So looking forward to that. Back to Curtis.
One thing that I want to talk about that really applies to everyone is class standards and having the integrity in our box thirds. Last year, we had some world teams that went to early regionals and they received pretty high scores, let's say the top of box four early, and they didn't progress. And a matter of fact, some of these teams got lower scores at championships. Now, we can dissect that and come to a lot of different reasons, perhaps why that happened. But I just want to remind everyone that when you're judging, first of all, and there's only one world-class team there, there is a tendency to overreact because you've been in the trenches judging a class for 8 or 9 or 10 hours, and then one great world team comes out and it's like you've seen Jesus. And so you just have to be very, very careful about that. Last year, we did a phenomenal job, and Carl and I reminded everyone that the top of box five says all the qualities all the time. And as a result, we were very dogmatic and diligent in keeping that threshold. So when we got to championships and we were looking at the world-class teams, really none of those independent world teams were all the qualities all the time. And so the score reflected that. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and what Carl is asking you to do, is examine the top of box four. Okay. It says all of those qualities all the time in box four. That's an 80 to an 89, right? I think we jump sometimes to box five a little prematurely because you look at box five and the bottom of box five says some of the qualities some of the time. And yes, teams can have some of those qualities of box five, but you always have to reference back down to box four. Even though they had some of those box five qualities, did they have all the qualities all the time in box four? And that's the threshold, right? So what we did last year with the top of box five, we want you to take that same approach with the top of box four, right? Nothing's changed. We're just going to be a little bit more diligent in applying those class standards. You're supported, right? You're supported in that sometimes you have to deliver the news. Sometimes a world-class team comes out and you perhaps struggle with how to say maybe some of these world-class phrases or moments aren't world-class. So thinking about that between now and our caption meetings, think about how to say that, especially in the tone in which you say it, right? I think flat coming out and saying, well, that's not a world-class moment, right? That's going to ignite those folks, right? And so we have to be a little bit more gentle and use our vocabulary in a way that they understand the message, that you're not beating around the bush, you're being honest with them. And I know sometimes that's challenging because a half hour later, you've got to sit across the table from them in critique. And you're all doing a great job with critique. It's part of the service that we provide. Again, know that you're supported. You're supported. Delivering sometimes the bad news is the hardest part of the job. And so strictly adhering to top of box four is going to be something that we're going to be kind of focused on as we go forward. Thanks for those people that have submitted the video questions. I know most of you have. Some of you have run into scheduling snafus and you've reached out to us, and that's great. Just when you get a chance, try to answer those questions via video, whether it's on your phone or Dropbox or YouTube or whatever it is, because we've got it from every different angle, whatever works best for you, because ideally we would like to compile some of these and again, put it into a short video just for some reminders, some ways of thinking about it, some ways of listening and hearing from your peers about how they approach certain things. That's really the best way to learn. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you watching this. If you have questions before the caption meeting, you can always reach out to any of us. And thanks for all you do.